This past week was the Trans Rights Readathon, and next month in April is Trans Girl April. So let's talk about what I read last week and the books that I have on my TBR for Trans Girl April. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Alyssa, obviously. I am a little bit hesitant about filming this. I'm very excited to publish this, but like filming it, I've had a little bit of nerves, shall we say. The thing that seems to set people off quite a bit on this platform is talking about anything having to do with trans people, trans rights, brings out the vile comments, brings out the nasties. And so as much as I am absolutely proud to be standing here and telling you about some wonderful books that I plan to read, some wonderful books that I have read, and I'm going to give you guys in the description a bunch of books that I've already read that I think would be fantastic if you want more from what is in this list. This is by no means comprehensive, but it's just getting myself like pumped up to like get ready to film the thing that I know is going to have somebody leave a nasty comment down below. So if that's you, hi, I see you. I'm ready for you. Okay, let's go. Okay, so last week was the Trans Rights Readathon, which was started by the wonderful creator Sim, and I will put up their photo and stuff here and try to put in their links so you can follow them. Fantastic. So much money is being raised. It's been getting some buzz. It's been extended through this week. I'm very excited about it. I don't understand why we dehumanize people. I have been reading a whole bunch of stuff. You know, I'm always reading a bunch of things. So I didn't get to read like a plethora of trans books this past week, but I did get through the 3 books that I did say I was going to read, and they were fantastic. So we're going to briefly talk about why they were so great and why you should read them. And then I want to launch into the books that I'm reading for trans girl, trans boy, non-binary human, April, and the people that are creating this, and all of that jazz after it. So let's go. I read Freshwater by Aoki Emezi. We knew this was going to be great. It's Aoki Emezi. So this was their debut novel, if for some reason you live under a rock and don't know. And it was fantastic. So this basically is following a girl named Ada, who you watch her kind of grow up, and some really terrible things happen to her on the page, and you have these beautiful use of like collective voices, and it's this stunning portrayal of just like mental illness and how you deal with the things that happen to you in a brain that is filled with voices. And it focuses on, and I don't want to say this wrong, one of the main voices is in Obanje, who is kind of like a parasite in her brain. And that character also gets its own narrative, and there's a lot of sort of fighting back and forth between Ada and this character, or Ada and this character. And it's brilliant, it's sad, it's hard to read at times, and it's stunning. I love their work. I will read anything that they write. I will probably ingest any form of art that Aoki Emezi wants to make and put out into the world, and I'll probably love it. I stand Aoki Emezi. Definitely worth a read if for some reason you haven't read it yet. The list below is going to have a few more Aoki Emezi books that I've read already that I think are wonderful, so check out the description. There's other things in the description, like my Patreon if you want to join it, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just go down there, but like directly down below is just going to be a list of books that I've read that I love, that you should read. I read The Seep by Chana Porter, which is a like small sci-fi speculative fiction novella. I loved all of these. So you're gonna hear me say like, oh, it was stunning, oh, it was wonderful, over and over and over again. And they were 3 very different books. So this is about set in a world where the seep, which is this kind of alien thing that has gotten into like the water and everything else, comes and kind of gets rid of everything that could ever be bad in the world and makes this utopian existence. And there's people that refuse the seep, and there's people that embrace the seep, and the people who embrace the seep are kind of like the majority. And our main character is sort of stuck in the middle. They enjoy some aspects of what the seep has brought, but they also believe that this sort of erasing of anything negative ever in existence is not great for humanity. And they go on this sort of journey to find this person, and through this journey to find this person, they learn a lot more about like themselves, and they find a way to accept and move on from the loss of a relationship. It's filled with like hope and coping with grief and some discussions of just like, I guess, really big sort of like what is the meaning of life kind of conversations. I thought it was great. It's fantastically written. It's really quick and at times funny. It's compulsively readable. I loved it. I definitely, like, if you're in the mood for a little sci-fi that you just want to like dive into and be consumed by while you're reading it, I'd read this. It's really good. I'm sorry about all the glare with my glasses. I don't have contacts right now. So finally, and I don't know if this exactly fits the brief for Trans Rights Readathon, but I don't care. I think it's an incredibly important piece. I think it's an incredibly important story, especially in like queer history, and I think that it's a must read. So I'm glad I read it, and I'm gonna include it, and I don't care if it skirts sort of around the fringes of the brief for Trans Rights Readathon. And that is The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickles. This book will break you. It is about a young man in the late 80s who has AIDS. And he was from a small town in Ohio. He got out of that town, moved to New York, kind of lived his best life. And then, the AIDS epidemic hit. And he's reflecting on the people he's lost, on the life that he came from, on everything, how he's been treated, how his friends have been treated. It's incredibly sad and moving. It's incredibly sad to see how these men were treated for having AIDS, how nobody would touch them, I think we forget now, people growing up now forget how much was out there in the media. I mean, I was like 3 when this book was set, but by the time you get to the 90s, there's all this media campaigning about how, this is how you actually contract the disease. No, you don't have to worry about sitting on a toilet seat. No, you don't have to do all these things. And we really had legitimate fears about the fears were not legitimate, but like we were legitimately afraid of like anything, because this disease, there was no control over it. That we didn't have the medications we have now. People were just dying, and they were like, oh, so this book does such a beautiful and respectful job at showing the reader just the humanity of what was happening and how inhuman it all was, and how painful it was. And I loved our main character's friend, because what gets written out of the history of the AIDS pandemic often, or sort of overlooked, is the contributions from the lesbian community and the women who went into spaces and took care of their friends and took care of these men who were dying, and were the ones that were willing to touch and comfort and provide care, and that kind of gets lost. This book was so good. He goes back home when he knows kind of he's getting closer to dying, but not quite so sick that he can't do stuff. And he goes home, and you start to see the tensions in the small community. You start to see the homophobia, the fear of AIDS, the issues within his family. It's so raw and real and beautifully done, and you have to read it. You have to read it. It's so freaking good. That's the 3 books that I read for the Trans Rights Readathon. And to continue into April, we have from Say Kevi and Books and Bow. They are doing Trans Girl April, but you can apply trans girl, boy, whatever, however you identify, non-binary, just go with the original hashtag, make it what you will. But the zippy original title is Trans Girl April. They have prompts, which I will put up on the screen so you can see it. And I don't think that I have things that fit exactly into the prompts. I'm not good at following readathons when they have prompts. I like just kind of a general brief, and then I just pick books to fit into it. And that's kind of how I've treated this. And I have, I don't know, a handful of books here that I want to read. Some are from authors I've read before, some are brand new, some are like, how have I not read this already? So that's what we're going with. I don't own any of these books. These are all coming from the library or from Hoopla or from Scribd. I'm just going to kind of go rapid fire through these. I don't really want to read the summaries, but I just kind of want to go through them and be like, this is why I want to read it. First up is going to be Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. I've had this on my list for quite a while. It is a literary gothic horror that's supposed to be a little bit darkly funny. I know a lot of people have loved this. I'm curious to see what it's about. I stinking love the cover. That's why I'm reading it. I hope you guys don't mind these bare bones descriptions. I don't really like reading summaries. You're not here for me to read you summaries. That's boring. I don't want to do that. You can go to another channel for that. Next up is Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandello. Super excited for this little novella. So, what does it mean to be in kind with a non-human animal? Or is Dr. Sean Callender's case to be in kind with one of the last remaining wild wolves, using a neurological interface to translate her animal subject's perception through her own mind? Sean intends to chase both her scientific curiosity and her secret lifelong desire to experience intimacy and the freedom of wolfishness. It looks dark, it sounds dark, but it also is kind of giving me like Katrina Ward Sundial vibes in like the talking to animals thing. I'm curious to see how this goes. Also, like, I'm kind of here for that idea of like finding freedom in a wild wolf's brain. Then, if I can get this library hold in time, we have Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. And I have seen this everywhere. I believe it's YA. And everybody who has read this has raved about this, at least everybody in my experience. It's a debut novel. It's supposed to be kind of dark, and I like dark. It's a book about survival, and it's a book about marginalized kids at the end of the world trying to live long enough to grow up. It's a book about the terrible things that people do in the name of belief and privilege. Yes, 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 yes. I need this hold to come in. I need it to come in. I need it to come in. It's the thing with the longest wait, but if you know how library holds work, you'll know that time is different in library hold land. Hopefully it comes in. I've heard people just rave so much that I need to know what they're raving about. I have another Aoki Emezi that I haven't read already, and that's Dear Centurion, which I believe is more of their more like memoir like story. It's a memoir in letters. Through candid, intimate correspondence with friends, lovers, and family, Aoki Emezi traces the unfolding of a self and the unforgettable journey of a creative spirit stepping into power in the human world. Love it, here for it. I want more insight into Aoki Emezi's brain, because I just believe that it's going to be like a crazy, interesting, beautiful place, and I want to know more. Oh, also on this list, because finally I can get it and read it, and I've been wanting to read it for so long, and I haven't read it yet, and that is Docile. And now I know that I feel like there's like mixed feelings on Docile, but like I just need to know. I need to know. This is a science fiction parable about love and sex, wealth and debt, abuse and power, and a challenging tour de force that it turns, seduces, and startles. I need to know what this is about. The cover from the first time I ever saw the cover, I was like, I need to know. I need to know. I think this has something to do with sex work in some way. It plays a major theme in the story and the plot line, but it's kind of like sadomasochism. I need to know about this book, and I feel like YouTube is not going to like that I said any of those words, but I don't care. I need to read this. I need to know if I like this. What's been great about both of these readathons for trans rights is finding all these books that I had either just kind of like seen but not looked at, or had never heard of, and putting them on a TBR and reading them, and I'm so psyched. Like this one that I know I've seen the cover quite a few times, but I've never read it, and that is, or I've never looked into it, and that's Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. And I've heard so many good things about this book because of last week's readathon, the Trans Rights Readathon, that now it's in my little like sphere of books that I'm paying attention to, and I want to know. I want to know. We have a murder. There's fantasy. It's like a fantasy thriller. I love that. I want that. So let's do that. I do have a manga on here that I'm waiting for from the library, and this is from a Books and Bow recommendation, and that is To Strip the Flesh by Oto Tadota. And this sounded so good, and I haven't read a good manga in like a little bit. And it's 6 short stories that explore what must be stripped away to find the truth and celebrate the beauty of embracing who you are. I think it's about a boy, if I remember correctly, who is like trying to explain himself to his dad, learning like who he is and how to become that person that he feels he is inside. It sounded really interesting. I feel like sometimes mangas can hit like extra hard because you have the visual and you have the words hitting you at the same time. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this is all about. I love a good recommendation from Willow. So if Books and Bow loves this, I probably will too. This is one that I don't know how I haven't read this yet, and that is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. And the fact that I haven't read any Becky Chambers is just how? I don't know. I can't explain that, but we're fixing that. So this is book 1. I don't know if this is a duology or what, but there are 2 books out, and this is the Monk and Robot series. And everybody says that this is just wonderful, and I can't wait to add it to my cozy fantasy review list. It's a delightful new Monk and Robot series that gives us hope for the future. I mean, it's supposed to just be so good. This new series asks, in a world where people have what they want, does having more matter? Oh, I just want to know. I want to know what this is about, and I want to know why people love it so much. And I'm so excited to delve into the world of Becky Chambers, and so excited. And then finally is another book by an author that I've read already, and that is An Unkindness of Ghosts. And this is by the wonderful Rivers Solomon, who wrote The Deep and Sorrowland, which are on my list down below. Because if you like weird books, if you're someone who's like, you know what I like weird books. If you like speculative fiction, if you like sci-fi and fantasy, if you like books that have something to say, they have a message, uh, they're going to talk really rawly about things like colonialism and racism, people being dehumanized, religion, whatever. If you want a book that has a point and isn't just a story, and you like it to be weird, River Solomon will never steer you wrong. I have said this on many podcast episodes, and I've said this many times on this channel, but River Solomon is the kind of author, when you read their work, you're like, I want to know how the inside of your brain works. Because you start at point A, and the majority of us are going to go to B, but somehow you go to 12. And I don't know how you got there, but it makes 100% sense, and I love it. And then somehow we get all the way back down here to B, and it's great. I don't know if that example made any sense, but we're going with it. I love River Solomon, and it's time for me to read An Unkindness of Ghosts. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. This TBR is really, a lot of this is to fill in gaps of books that I don't know how I haven't read it yet. And this is one of them. And An Unkindness of Ghosts is a sci-fi space sort of odyssey setting, but is going to cover themes of like antebellum South in the US. I'm sort of here to see how River Solomon meshes these two and where they take us. And I know it's gonna be weird. I know it's gonna be wonderful. I know it's gonna be moving. I know it's gonna be powerful. I know it's gonna be great, and I know I'm gonna love it. So I am ready. I already have this on audio sitting, waiting for me to start for April, and I am super, super freaking psyched to start this. So those are the 9 books I have on my TBR for Trans Girl April. If you're going to be participating in this, I would love for you to let me know down below. Hello to everybody who's going to leave a nasty comment. I hope that you've watched this far and that maybe you found something you want to read. I will be trying to post as much as possible about these books. There are other books I will have on my TBR for April. They're all really chunky, so I may do like a quick little video to show you the other books that I'm reading in April. But this is the bulk of it. Please check out down below for the list of books that like I just info dumped out that I've already read that I think would work for these briefs and would be wonderful if you read. I think you'd really enjoy them. Please go and support Say Kevi and Books and About. I'll link them down below so you can see what they're reading. Follow any of the hashtags here on YouTube and see what everybody else who's participating on BookTube is reading. Let's read. Let's stand up for trans rights. Let's say no to freaking fascism. That is point 1 or point 0 on this list of things to do for this readathon. And let's all learn a little bit about somebody who might be a little different than you and realize that, you know what, we're all freaking human and we all deserve rights and love and a place in this world. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go come closer next to me, trying to find another way to say